All right, good evening, Protectors. Welcome to the Education of a Weaponized Man podcast. I'm Greg LaBeouf here with you. I've got Coach Brad with me. Coach Dustin is gone international. He's gone rogue. He'll be back next week with us. Listen, so tonight in this episode, I actually want to talk about a concept. It is so applicable. I was actually going through some old archived materials that I'd done up for training and different things, and I came across this comic book strip that I did to represent this course that I taught called Confrontation Domination. And it was just this funny little cartoon that I came up with. But I remember spending probably a good week building out this cartoon. I'm no artist, but I actually bought a software that allowed you to animate different things and stuff. And so I went down this rabbit hole of representing concepts that have to deal with violence in an animated fashion, and I'd actually put together a comic book. I found it quite entertaining to go back. I'd forgotten I'd even done that, but there was one comic strip in particular that I did, and it was called Build a Better Chicken. And it just hit me that just this past week I had a conversation with a couple individuals, and this Build a Better Chicken comic strip that I'd done probably 6-7 years ago was bang on. And so I sent it to the guy and said, this literally sums up a 3-hour conversation in 5 different strips. So we're going to talk about the Build a Better Chicken tonight. And the concept is, everybody knows what happens when a fox gets into the chicken coop. Well, we're going to talk about new ways, new ideas, new takes on how to deal with the fox and the chicken. Okay, that's it. 30 seconds back from our intro. We're going to dive into how to build a better chicken. You're not going to want to miss this one. Stay around. Hey everybody, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Greg LaBeouf, and I'm sharing insights for how I went from the victim of a brutal attempted murder to weaponizing my mind and body, mastering the tool of violence so that I can protect myself and my family from violent criminal assault, and how for the past 30 years I've been helping good people just like you do the same. Welcome to the Education of a Weaponized Man podcast. Okay, we're back, and just had a mess with my headset here a little bit, but we're back. And okay, let's dive right into this. So I actually have some graphics that are going to go along with this. So it's not necessary though. If you're listening to this on our podcast, then I will explain each of the graphic panels to you. But this is also a good opportunity for me to remind people that you can check out all of the different podcasts, but we also have a YouTube channel, Awaken the Protector Within, where you can watch every episode of the podcast. And so you might want to pop in at some point, check out the graphics for this. Although don't worry about it, I'm an amazing storyteller. I'm sure it'll be just like, if you're listening to this, I'll paint such a vivid picture, you'll think that you actually watched it. All right, so, and plus, I mean, you're lucky that this isn't my freehand drawing, because I said I wasn't an artist, but boy, hey Brad, over 30 years, you guys have seen some of my whiteboard drawings to illustrate different concepts, and they're quite remarkable. So it's a real treat if you haven't experienced it. Maybe someday you will.
Well, you know what? They get the point across. That's all that matters.
They're functional. They're not aesthetically beautiful, but they're functional. Okay, let's dive right into this. Build a better chicken. So what's the concept? Okay, I'm going to pop up here. Just let me find slide number 1. So again, these are just little illustrated comic book, kind of stories that I did up. Okay, so I can actually drag this one out. I'll make it a tiny bit bigger here now that I can see what we're doing with space. But here's the picture. Basically, it shows a chicken coop in the background, and there is clearly a sign right in the front, staked into the ground, that says no stealing chickens. And yet you'll see a fox who is walking out, and he's got a chicken by the neck, and you see the other chickens are running around, freaking out, fleeing the coop. But there's the fox, and he is stealing the chicken. So listen. In slide number 1, we're going to set something up, right? And that is, everyone knows what happens when a fox gets into the chicken coop. A fox wants to hunt, it wants to eat, it's its nature to do that. Well, the fox is a representation of violent individuals, okay? And obviously, a fox, it's in its nature to fucking eat chickens. Like, it'll hunt them, it'll work its way, figure out a way into that chicken coop, and it's going to eat those chickens. Well, a violent offender is the same thing. It's in their nature. It's in their character. They have this is their environment. This is their world. And so the fox, like the violent individual, like the fox, is going to hunt. And they don't give a fuck. Who do you think they're going to go for? Who do you think most violent predators look for? Well, they're going to target the chickens. They're going to target the innocent people. I could have done. Everyone knows, or most people know, probably that there's the sheep and the sheepdog analogy. Okay, so it's just kind of another spin on that. The wolves are going to hunt the sheep. The fox is going to hunt the chicken. Now, I think the thing that is interesting about this first slide, and then Brad, I'll let you give your opinions on it, but it is clearly marked there with a sign that says "No stealing chickens." It's as if the fucking fox can't read, right? So there's the social contract. The farmer has made it very clear that there's no stealing the chickens, but obviously the fox doesn't give two fucks what the farmer says, and that's of course representative society. But here's slide number 1: no stealing chickens. Brad, what's your first take on our fox and our chicken story here tonight?
You know what? You kind of nailed it, because the first thing is like, it's like, well, maybe he just can't read. Maybe the fox is illiterate. But we know that's not the case. We know that he's just like, he sees the sign. Yeah. And he's like, fuck your sign. I don't care what you said. I see there's chickens in there, and my whole motive, my whole MO is to eat chickens. So it's like, he probably, well, maybe he came from a different angle. Like, no, he came from the front. Like, he's blatantly obvious about what he's doing. It doesn't matter what the sign says. It's like, no trespassing. Okay, cool. Well, I'm going to trespass anyway because you have something that I want, right?
Yeah. I love it because, like, this is how applicable this is, okay? The fox, right? Like, and you said, like, he doesn't give a fuck. Well, let's look at something, right? Because everybody else, like, if you look off screen, like right now you see the fox and the chickens, and there's the chicken coop and there's the sign. But you got to think about it, right? There's the farmers. There's all these other people that are around it that aren't shown in the picture of this. And those people will use denial. Meaning what you just said, Brad, exactly, right? Denial is what? There's five things that tell you you're using denial, right? Rationalization, justification, minimization, excuse making, or flat out refusal to fucking acknowledge something. So guess what everybody has to do? Well, maybe the fox was illiterate. Like you said, maybe he came at a different angle. They start rationalizing why the fox took the chicken. I mean, he wouldn't just take the chicken when there's clearly, signs. Like, wouldn't, but that is literally what fucking people are like in this society. Right? Well, but there's a rule. Go ahead, Brad. Go ahead. Jump in.
With the fox, he's like, oh, he sees the sign. He's like, well, that sign's not for me. That sign's for everybody else who's going to abide by the social contract. Yes. But the fox is like, oh yeah, that's not my rules. The sign, I see the sign, but that's not for me. That's for everybody else, so they don't steal the chickens because I'm a chicken stealer. So like, a chicken stealer doesn't follow the sign that says no stealing chickens. It's like, that's not for me, and that's criminal. Like, criminals, like, oh, they know the social contract. They're like, that's just not for me.
Exactly. They're outliers, right? They have a different perception. They like we talk about this lots in a concept. We're not going to go super deep in this, but we talk about don't transfer your moral code, right? Like, and that's a really heavy subject, and this is kind of more of a funnier episode, I think, right? But it doesn't make it less true. Like, you can't. Most people transfer their moral code, so like, well, that's why denial becomes so powerful. Because they're always, we call it benefit of the doubt yourself to death. They transfer their moral code and think, well, no, like you wouldn't do that, all that type of stuff. And that's, again, they're outliers. They don't play by the same rules. They don't give a fuck about your rules. You know what I mean? Matter of fact, like you said, it's almost incentive to them to be like, it was Sigmund Freud said, never underestimate a person's need to obey. And that's powerful, right? Because, like back in the day, we used to go to the inner city bars and stuff, and we used to train out there and all this type of stuff. They would have people carrying knives, and they'd have knife assaults and all that stuff. And you know what dropped incidents of knife assaults? Like, I can't remember the exact statistic. It was over 70%. As a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, it was the high 70s, if not the low 80s. They put a sign up that said no knives. Just had a picture of a knife with an X through it. And then it said no fucking knives. And knife incidents dropped, like, let's just say 70%. It was higher than that, but I'm just going to say conservatively 70%. Sigmund Freud was right. Never underestimate a person's need to obey. But then there's the outliers. So for a large part of the population, when that sign goes up saying no stealing the fucking chickens, the large majority of the population goes, well, yeah, you can't do that. But this is also like, we could go down tangents on this and be like, this is also to me what the danger of training in a traditional or a combat sport is. We have another saying, right? We have a lot of fucking sayings, but be careful what you practice because you just might get good at the wrong thing. People don't realize how much filler is in their training. And there's a lot of things that I constitute as filler. But let's just talk about the rule books. Let's talk about the formalities of, like, in gyms, nobody starts sparring until both guys are ready to spar, or until the instructor has said it's sparring night. Like, there is no sudden, or there is no ambush attacks. If somebody is, hurt, remember, there's a difference between being hurt and being injured. Are you hurt or are you injured? If you're hurt, get the fuck up and drive on. If you're injured, seek medical attention. But the second somebody's hurt or somebody slips when they're, we're not going to the ground. There's timeouts, there's stops, there's referee, interruptions, there's break, we could go on and on and on. But people don't think that becomes programmed. There's a famous story in the law enforcement training community of, police officers training gun disarms. And sure enough, out on the street one day, a bad guy puts a gun in a cop's face, pulls the gun on him. It's surprised, you know what I mean? The cop viscerally reacts and he strips the gun. Like, it fucking works. Like, he didn't think about it. He didn't try to do it. He just fucking hand went up to deflect the gun because it popped in his face. And next thing you know, he fucking stripped the gun out of the guy's hand and then promptly handed it back to him. Because that's what he had done in training. So he had an accidental, if not incidental moment. He had a visceral reflex, took the gun away, and then promptly handed it back. Because what you do is what you do. Like, that becomes habituated. That becomes chronically habituated inside of you, right? So the way you train is the way you fight. And so I just, all of these things to me are super interesting. That, again, never underestimate, an individual's need to obey. Well, when you have certain rules inside of your training, you'd be amazed at how many of your people will follow them. And those things can get you killed. That's why we call them filler. Right? So anyways, the first slide is very interesting to me because, again, the sign's up that the fox doesn't give a fuck. He goes in, he steals the chickens. And everybody knows there's a problem. That's why the sign's up in the first place. But if you also look, the chicken coop is wide open. There are no other defenses. There's not even a fence around the chicken coop, right? So, okay, that's slide number one. If you have something else to throw on it, go ahead, Brad. But otherwise, I'll take out slide one and let's go to slide number two. So the next scene, and I'm going to make this a little bit bigger because there's a little bit more going on here. But we're going to cover our faces a tiny little bit here. That's okay. So now we see the chicken coop. We see the farmer is standing in the middle of about 1, 2, 3, 4 different signs, and there's a barricade. And the farmer says, that should solve the problem. So this slide is, and let me read the signs. So first, our no stealing chicken signs is still there. But now in front of the chicken coop, there is a yellow barrier, like a construction barrier that says, do not cross. Very clearly marked in that. So he's put up a fence around the chicken coop to a degree. Then there's another sign to the left of the no stealing chickens that says, please leave chickens alone. The next sign, sorry, I'm having trouble reading it from where I'm at on my screen.
No tolerance for chickens. Stealing chickens.
No tolerance. What does it say? No tolerance for stealing chickens?
Zero tolerance policy on stealing.
Yeah, zero tolerance policy on stealing chickens. Okay. And then the sign behind the farmer says,
anti-chicken theft bylaw.
Yeah, anti-chicken theft bylaw. And then it has a number, bylaw 286 or whatever it is. So there is clearly marked, there is now passed a mandate. There's an anti-chicken theft bylaw that is in effect. So they've produced new laws. The farmer's got some laws passed. He's proclaiming there's a zero tolerance. So we're not going to tolerate any bullshit. If you fuck with our chickens, no stealing chickens. Another plea to please leave the chickens alone. He put up a barricade in front of the chicken coop. Now, when I designed this this next slide, to me this was interesting because there is a problem, right? The fox is doing what the fox does, and the fox is targeting the chickens, the vulnerable chickens, because he wants to fucking eat. There's a rule, a societal contract: don't fuck with the chickens. But now the chickens are being slaughtered. So what does society do? The farmer, he fucking passes more laws. He mandates more things. He puts in more rules. He passes bylaws, those things. He puts up a fucking barricade saying, do not cross. So all of these things that start happening, and the farmer goes, fuck yeah, man, this will solve the problem. And so how is that representative society? Well, everybody starts wanting to do all of these fucking different things. Like we want to start taking care of all of these cursory things that we think are going to solve the fucking problem. But, and then I'll throw it to you, Brad. The thing that always gets me is that we're not actually dealing with the problem in the now. Like all of these things, bylaws and legislations and different security measures and all this type of stuff. Those things are dealing with the problem, but a lot of times they're dealing with the problems in a more indirect way. And I'll leave it at that. I'll let you jump in on slide number 2, Brad, and then I got a few more things I'll throw down range.
Yeah, and I think that I might even be jumping ahead a bit, but the one thing that pops in my head is the word responsibility, right? So we put a bylaw. So the bylaw now has a responsibility of protecting the chickens, right? The signs and the barricade have the responsibility of protecting the chickens, right? But which we know that is false. You look at all these things even in our society. It's like, oh, we have a law that say, yeah, you can't murder people, but the law doesn't protect people. The law doesn't stop people from being murdered. The law doesn't. The law in itself is not the responsibility. You know what I mean? To protect the people.
Yep.
It doesn't stop the act from actually happening. So when you are here looking at this, it's like, yeah, well, the responsibility we put this law in place. So but you're still missing the root, right? Which I know where we're.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. This is what really got me. And like I said, I had a conversation with a few different people, and this is a conversation I have quite often. And I want to really be clear on this, right? But the second, like right now, in the city of Edmonton, let's talk about this problem, because the fox is in the chicken coop. The chief of police, once again, just a week or two ago, has released another statement saying that not just Edmonton, but he's talking about Edmonton, but all of Canada is experiencing an increase, a fairly significant increase in random violent assaults. Okay, so this is coming from the chief of police. So I don't often like to talk statistics, because statistics will change, right? And so sometimes they're a bit better, sometimes they're a bit worse. Things are going to go up, things are going to go down, fine. But listen, the chief of police has said this, and he's sitting there and he's saying, listen, there's a lot of things that we see that are just on the surface. These things are happening. Open air drug use, right? Meaning what? What does he mean when he says open air drug use? You have more and more people openly in public places using using drugs, and not low level drugs, like drugs that seriously fucking impact physiology, mental health, physical, all of it, right? And so you got this open air drug use, and so you're going to have your regular civilians, and they're going to be encountering this more because the people using drugs don't give a fuck. They're not hiding in dark basements and abandoned houses. They're just fucking using drugs out in the open. You have a serious fucking problem with bail reform, or our justice system is really fucking struggling right now. And so you chronically have very violent offenders being pushed back out onto the streets, and they are reoffending at alarming fucking rates. Right? So that's another part of it. The other side of it is that we are starting to see fairly significant reductions in police response time. Now listen, the police do a fucking thankless, really tough fucking job. The system, the demands that are placed on them are overwhelming. But the reality is this. Maybe most people don't know this. If you call 911, your call is prioritized on a scale. If I remember correctly, it's from 0 to 7. I believe it's 7. 0, like a priority 0 call, is officer in imminent danger, meaning he needs somebody fucking now. Like someone is actively trying to murder a police officer, or a police officer's been shot, they're down. So that's a code 0, a priority 0, sorry. Priority 1 is imminent grievous danger of bodily harm or death to a civilian, meaning to a citizen. So priority 1 is the highest call, meaning you're being attacked, somebody has the weapon, there's an active shooting, there's a threat of a shooting, just the real serious fucking shit. All the way down to code 1, 2, 3 are all very significant. Obviously 1, 2, 3 being the higher ones, 1 being the highest, 2, 3 being close to that end, like, crisis. Once you get 4 or 5, 6, and 7, they're lower priorities. Now, priority call code 1, the highest that you as a civilian, shit is happening, your family's life's in jeopardy, your life's in jeopardy, an innocent person's life in jeopardy, you call in, fucking an assault is happening or it's fucking imminent, the worst call. Their response time goal is 7 minutes. Now I'll ask you this, Brad, but I'd ask everybody this question if I was standing in front of them. Have you ever been in a 7-minute long life and death battle? Like, do you know how long 7 fucking minutes is in a life and death fucking violent confrontation? Potentially with multiple opponents who are armed, who do not share your moral code? That's 7 fucking minutes, might as well, like that's a fucking eternity. Now listen, one thing, that's 7 minutes from when the call comes in. If you're the fucker getting attacked, you ain't stopping to dial 911. So you don't have 7 minutes, hasn't even fucking started yet. You need somebody who's invested enough, who gives a fuck enough to dial the call for you, which is shockingly hard at times to find somebody willing to do that. Now let's just assume they do 7 minutes. Now, that is their gold standard response time, which they only meet 64.5% of the time. Now you might go, hey, 64% ain't bad. When it's your life on the line, you know what I mean? That is not ideal. But hey, law enforcement, they're not proactive, although they try at times. They are reactive, meaning they get the call after something's happened or while after something has already started for sure. Now, if you got like someone is trying to kick down your front door and they say, you're talking to 911, you say, hey, listen, someone's trying to get there. There's a couple guys up front that are trying to kick my front door in. Do they have weapons? What do you mean, do they have weapons? How do I know if they got fucking weapons? Look out the window, sir. Do you have a peephole? Is there any? No, I don't see any weapons. I just see 3 guys up there booting. Okay, they don't have any weapons. You just got deprioritized. You're not a priority 1 call. You might be dropped to a priority 4 or 5 call, 2 or 3. It's just going to depend how busy they are. You could be a priority 3 call, but if they have a lot of priority 1 and priority 2s, or God forbid a priority 0 call, you know, you're not getting it. We talked about clients that we had, and they had 5 people trying to kick down the door, and they kept asking them, do you see any weapons? They're like, our door is about to come off the fucking hinges. These guys are fucking like threatening to murder our entire family. There's me, my husband, my daughter. And the police showed up the next day. I think it was almost 16 hours later because they had other high priority calls. Now, they're not sitting in the fucking office eating donuts like a lot of people would, yeah, fucking police and this and that. That's not what they're doing. They're dealing with a lot of shit. Isn't that fucked up to think, hey, that's just your bad luck that there happen to be other high priority calls? So, anyways, I don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole, but you got open air drug use, you got fucking, diminishing police response times, you have a broken justice system that is pushing people back on the street, violent offenders, and they're reoffending. That's just the tip of the iceberg. But what I'm getting at and how it relates to this situation here is that problem is happening now, fucking today, right now. That's the problem. And so that problem, we got to see it for what it is, not worse than it is. It's bad enough, just see it for what it is. But that demands an immediate response. But every time we talk about that, what I get is people having conversations who then go, oh yeah, well, we got open air drug use and stuff like that. Yeah, which is contributing to an increase in random violent assaults. But we got to back up. If we're going to talk about the drug use problem, then we have to talk about how the government funding was cut and this government and that politician and this person and these people, how they don't have any good drug treatment plans and they canceled this program and they did this. And I'm like, listen, I'll snap my fingers and assume that you're automatically 1,000% correct in everything you just said. Who fucking cares? You get what I mean? And then they said, well, if you want to talk about homelessness, well, it's because we don't have enough affordable housing. Because the government this, and so-and-so did this, and Trudeau did this, and fuck this government guy, and fuck this guy. Okay, again, let's just assume you're 100% right. Who the fuck cares? I don't care what you're talking about. Who the fuck cares? Because, and like, at the end of the day, I do care. And I'm thank God that there's groups out there that's the fight that they're fighting. But that's not the fight I'm fighting. The fight I'm fighting, the social responsibility I have, is to fucking weaponize people. Is to what's a solution that we can do that handles the problem that is happening right now because innocent people are being attacked. Our chickens are being fucking slaughtered. It's great if you want to pass a new bylaw. Go for it. I'll support it. Most likely I'd support it. I guess I'd have to hear it, but I'll support it in the next 3 to 5 years that you get this bylaw passed. Right? And that to me is what, and yet the people are going, well, that should solve the problem. Oh, we switched governments. Great. Every government that's pretty much ever run for office often runs on a platform of we're going to crack down on crime. That's just one of the favorite things to do. And how much difference does it truly make? And yes, it does make a difference. And right away, someone out there listening to this would want to fucking argue with me and talk the politics. I don't give a fuck. That's not my fight. I don't give a fuck. I got to solve the problem of what happens when somebody's kicking down your front fucking door. And the police are going to be, they're not going to be there in time. And go ahead, Brad, jump in. Sorry, I went on a rant.
Sorry, in that moment when you're in it, all that backstory washes away. Yes. All the stuff of like this, we could have had better this, we could have better that. Yeah. What society can't have better everything? You know what I mean? So it's like, with that being said, like it's fun to, it's not fun, but one of the things we've talked a lot, when people talk about violence, and it's very easy to have these conversations when you're in the comfort of your own home and it's an intellectual exercise and you could have those debates, right? But it's like when you're in the moment, when there's violence right in front of you or through you already, it doesn't matter. None of it matters. And I think that's kind of what you're saying. Like, it doesn't fucking matter. Shoulda, coulda, woulda. We don't. This is here. This is happening. This is right now. So now what? Nothing you change in any sort of thing is going to help you in that situation besides weaponizing.
100%. Yeah, and this is, and again, like, listen, for every problem, on every level of the problem, as far out as it reaches, every layer of it, you need good people fighting that fight. You need somebody who's serious about fucking politics and is out there actually fucking trying to pass new laws and legislations and bylaws and whatever it's going to take. They're running for office. They're doing these things. They're lobbying for these different things. They're lobbying to protect rights. They're doing all of that stuff. On every layer, you have to have that. But what most people do is they want to talk about all of those things. Yet they're not doing anything. They're just fucking talking. And what they're doing is the fucking blame game. I blame. And then they're going into denial and rationalizing, justifying, minimizing, excuse me, or flat out refusing to address the problem. Where you do not have people is, like, I find this is where, there's never a crowd on the extra mile, and there's also never a crowd at the center of a fucking hurricane. Because everybody's wanted to run. The second they go, fucking, the winds are getting pretty tough, let's get the fuck out of here. Because they don't want to be in the middle of that shit. Where we need to stand, and where we need more good men to stand, is right in the middle going, listen, like you say, when someone's putting a foot through your front fucking door, like that psychotic motherfucker that showed up and stabbed at 3 o'clock in the afternoon a mother and daughter to death outside of her school in broad fucking daylight, who's a fucking repeat offender, like, shut the fuck up. I don't want to hear one person say, I blame this politician, I blame this, I blame that, I don't give a fuck. You might be right, but I don't give a fuck because those people are dead. And while that motherfucker was out there walking the streets all fucked up looking to stab someone, when he started attacking those people, there was other people around. And you needed one good fucking man, one good fucking weaponized woman, somebody that understood how to take care of that problem. The fox was in the chicken coop ripping the chickens apart. What kind of farmer goes, well, fuck, he's really in there doing some damage, and goes and grabs some wood stakes and grabs his barbed wire and starts, well, I'll start putting up a fence. Nothing I can do about this carnage right now. I guess we'll wait, get more chickens, and try and keep them out tomorrow. Like, no, man, you need to do something right fucking now in that moment. Okay, so this whole, well, that should solve the problem. That's what slide number 2 kind of represents. I'm going to pop up slide number 3. Now, slide number 3, real quick, guess what happens? Farmer thinks he's got it all figured out, passed the bylaws, did all this shit, all that stuff. The fox comes along and goes, what a fucking joke. I don't give a fuck. Matter of fact, it just makes it funnier to me to just go against what you got. Now, you guys think that solves the problem. I'll show you in no uncertain terms that your justice system your police response times, your this, your that, or this. They don't have the teeth you think they have. So he goes in there, he mauls and destroys more chickens. He just doesn't give a fuck. He thinks it's funny more than anything. Okay, so that's slide number 3. It's basically, we all knew what was coming from slide number 2. Farmer thinks he's got it solved. Fox is like, yeah, watch this, fuck you, and does what he does. Okay, so let's go slide number 4. Now this is where there's a bit of a shift, and now what you have is the chicken is outside the chicken coop. All the signs are still up, and he's kind of doing a happy dance because there's a mailman is showing up, and he's got a package in his hand. And if you could read the package, it says, awaken the protector within. And basically what this slide represents is a complete switch in the thought process. And it's what I've been alluding to about how we solve the problem in the now. Everybody, most of society works to change the fox, to try to deter the fox's behavior, to try to rehabilitate the fox. Legislate, make, whatever they can do to change the fox. But I titled this cartoon, it's like, let's build a better chicken. What the chicken decided to do is he clearly sees the farmer as an inept motherfucker who doesn't truly give two shits about their health and well-being. Because despite all his best efforts, which even if they produce a result, won't help the chickens in the now, right? It'll be too far out. The chicken goes, fuck it. I'm going to take matters in my own hands. And so the chicken, it's representative of the chicken going, I got to do something for myself. And so the mailman delivering something was the chicken, is a representation of the chicken going, what can I do? Now, there's a couple things I really want to narrow in on this slide. And the one word that I would put to this slide is responsibility, or let's quote Jocko Willings, is whatever, I think I probably pronounced his last name wrong, but Navy SEAL leader guy. And believe his thing is extreme ownership. So responsibility or extreme ownership. And I'll let you throw something downrange if you want, Brad, on this slide here and what it means to you.
Yeah, you know what? I agree with everything you said. And with that, having that come into play was instantaneous, decisive action.
Yeah.
Right? Having that extreme ownership, when you own, now, in my opinion, the chicken owns the problem. And not until that moment, up until that moment, he could be in denial, he could defer responsibility, all those sorts of things. But when the chicken has the responsibility and takes ownership of the problem, it demands an action. That action is the result of the mailman coming delivering what the resource he needed to weaponize. Do you know what I mean? So yeah. It's like when you have that ownership, it's like you have to take an action because now you own it. And then if you decide to not take an action, yeah, and you still own the problem, fuck, where's that lead you? Where's that lead?
100%.
You know what I mean?
100%. The solution is, again, the chicken stops looking outward, right? People have to stop looking outward. And again, it goes with, I blame so-and-so, and that creates a habituated pattern of looking outside. It's not my fault, it's their fault. That's why I pay taxes. That's why we have police force. That's why we have military. That's why we have government. All great stuff, right? No problem if they come up with some really good shit, which there is, but that's a great assist. But they stop looking outward. Say, hey, listen, I'll take the help, but I cannot rely on the help. They look inward, and they start owning the problem. They take responsibility. And I want to throw something up here because, sorry, I had it up there, but Brent Picard, how's it going, Brent, man? Listen, so great. Thanks for jumping on with us tonight, and thanks for commenting. But here's a sentiment, and I want to put this up there. And this is, a lot of people share this sentiment. Okay, so Brent's comment was, dig a hole, right? Remove the fucking fox. Tell no one, problem fucking solved. Okay, now listen, that there is a tremendous amount of truth in that, and yet there is some, misleading things about that, because this is actually possible. And I know the spirit with which it was said, but like, okay, listen, dig a hole and remove the fucking fox. If we're talking about people here, and your family is being threatened, there's a fox, there's a bad person who's come to fucking raid your chicken coop, like raid your fucking home, take the things that you love most. The sentiment of, listen, dig a fucking hole and put that fucking fox in the ground, right? 100% true. 100% true. Now, the other side is the tell no one, right? Problem fucking solved. Here's the thing, and this is important. If somebody comes and I reasonably believe that myself or my family is facing imminent grievous bodily harm or death, I mean, someone is there to fucking murder me. Doesn't matter what their fucking motive. It can be over nothing. People are shocked at how many murders occur over nothing, over a fucking cigarette or over a perceived slight. It doesn't make a difference. But if somebody has the intention to fucking murder me or my family in cold blood, I can defend my life and my family's life up to and including lethal force. And here's the best part. I don't have to hide the body, right? It is legal, right? Now, people automatically go, bullshit, you fucking do something to somebody, you're going to jail, you're this. Listen, I get that there has been people that have been put through our justice system, right, where they have defended themselves and the police or the media has taken them and made a public showing of like, we're going to charge this person, where there is absolutely a certain amount of propaganda that exists in our country that is fueled by media and certain sources within law enforcement that wants to dissuade good people from defending themselves. So they want people to believe that that's not your right. Leave it to the police. And now sometimes that's just good advice because a lot of people don't know what the fuck they're doing. And so you can end up making shit even worse. But here's the thing. If you actually study the law, which means study Canadian case law, right? Which we do. We have a recognized expert in Canadian case law. And what case law tells us, meaning what's case law? How have the courts up to, from the lowest level to the highest level in Canada, our Supreme Court, how have they actually ruled? What has been the rulings? Because once something has been ruled on, that becomes case law. And case law tells us that Canadians have the right to defend their life, their family's life, and their property up to and including lethal force, even lethal force with weapons. At one point, our own fucking prime minister, while at repose in his bedroom, sound asleep in his night, which is in his bedroom at night, which is supposedly one of the most guarded, homes in Canada. Sure is a fuck of a lot more security outside, the prime minister's house than I do. And wakes up to find an intruder standing at the foot of his fucking bed. And the first thing he does is grabs a heavy statue off his fucking dresser and goes to fucking start beating the guy. Now, do you think he would have beat him up to and including death if he needed to? So people don't get that. They've never read the case law. They don't study it. And I'm going to recommend to every single person that you mandatorily must buy a book called No More Mr. Nice Guy, written by Barry Holland, who is our recognized expert, who we go to. All the material that we teach in our courses is all predicated off of his courses, his material. And he has just written the definitive guide to truly understanding what your fucking rights are. So imagine now if someone comes to murder me or my family, and it's escalating, meaning I have to use whatever force is necessary to defend myself, which goes to the point of lethal force. So I can dispatch this fucker if I got the strategy, tactics, tools, training, and mindset to do it. I can do what needs to be done morally and legally. And I don't have to fucking hide the body. Now listen, I'm not saying that it's an easy day going through court. It's not, but the point is, we do have the law on our side. And I think it's a very dangerous thing. Now, thank God we have people fighting for our rights and making sure that we maintain our rights. And yes, rights are they're like an accordion. There's forces pushing both ways on this shit. But as of now, we have law on our side. And what helps you is when you study and understand the law, because where most people fuck up isn't in what they've done in defense of their life. It's not the physical. It's what they say after, where they get themselves in fucking trouble because they don't fucking know what they don't know, and they spew a lot of stupid fucking bullshit that gets them in fucking trouble. And that now you've got legal problems because you don't fucking know anything and you don't know enough. Let me tell you the number one golden rule. Shut your fucking mouth. You don't talk to the police. You don't talk to fucking anybody but your lawyer. You don't say shit. And don't think for a second that the police aren't masters at getting you to open your fucking mouth. So you don't say shit. There's your legal advice. Don't say shit. The only person there to represent you is your lawyer. I don't care how innocent you are. I don't care, it doesn't make a difference. Say nothing. Shut your fucking mouth. Silence is golden. Talk to your lawyer. Okay? So that is the solution for that. Okay, so that was slide number 4. So the chicken starts looking inward and says, fuck it, right? So now we're going to go to slide number 5, and I'll just grow this, I'll blow this up a little bit. And what we're seeing right here is what happens when you start looking inward instead of outward, and you see the chicken, and the chicken's fucking jacked up, and the chicken is proudly displaying on his chest, I am a protector, ready, real, resilient, relentless, and ruthless. And the fox, because the fox doesn't know any better, the fox is like, these are stupid fucking chickens. And the fox is seeing all the shit that everybody else is doing, right? All the laws and bylaws and legislations and all the stupid bullshit. And what he doesn't recognize is that the chicken decided to fucking take matters into his own hands. So when the fox showed up, the chicken whooped his fucking ass. Right? And this is what happens. I've seen this over 30 years of doing this. This is what happens. You get a really good person. And this guy comes to you and he goes, I don't have any fucking experience. He goes, I'm not the best. I'm not in the best shape, not this. Matter of fact, my life's fucking busy. I got kids, I got to work. I'm a provider. But something happened. In my neighborhood, my neighbor, 4 doors down had some motherfuckers break into his house. My wife's sister got fucking jumped on the way home. A couple buddies of mine, they were out to a hockey game. And they were taking the fucking LRT coming home after a great night. And they got fucking jumped. And one of them got pushed on the tracks and fractured his skull. And the other guy, they almost severed his fucking arm. They had machetes and all this shit starts to happen. And they start going, fuck, man. Like, I guess whether or not I'm the skinny little fucking chicken who's just trying to live his life, I got to do something, man. And so then they start recognizing that, listen, I don't have to become a professional fighter. I don't have to go and enlist in the military and become some elite special operations soldier, right? Like, defending yourself is very simple strategies, tactics, and tools. It's much more mindset and perceptions and understanding your legal rights, and very simple, brutally efficient, strategies, tactics, and tools. And so very quickly you take these really good men who go, I've had no experience. I'm not necessarily, you got Nathan Gwinnard, one of our clients said it to me the other day. You got 2 feet and a heartbeat, right? Nathan's ex-military and said, but you got 2 feet and a heartbeat, then show the fuck up. That's what training does. Yes, you don't need anything more than that. And I fucking love that, right? Because people are always putting some sort of pedestal image. Don't I have to be like this, big bodybuilding guy? Don't I have to be this? No. 2 feet and a heartbeat. But you got to have the willingness. You got to be like the fucking chicken in the story here, right? You got to get tired of the fox, biting on your balls all day. You got to get tired of him fucking, eating your family. And you got to say, next time that fox shows up, fuck him. Doom on you, fox. And that's the mindset. Fuck, doom on you, man. And now what we're doing is we're solving the imminent problem when necessary. Here's the beautiful thing. We always say this too, and then I'll let you jump in, Brett. But time, right? Time's your greatest gift. Because you can, like the chicken, you can weaponize. You can start training. And a week passes, a month passes, a year passes, 5 years pass. Still, no fox, no righteous fight, no necessity to use any of this training that you've been in investing in. And maybe in that 2 years or 5 years or 8 years, maybe something changes. Maybe the individuals now that have been fighting the fight for better drug addiction problems, better mental health counseling, better training, better funding for the police, reforms to our justice system. Maybe they've had some headway, and so maybe they're starting to curb the problem more at the source. Great, fantastic, I'll take it. Okay, but at the end of the day, you have no clue when the fox shows up, in what way, what capacity. And you are your first responder. The chickens are the first one to know a fox is there. Right? I know a lot of people off my chicken and fox analogy say what they really need is a good guard dog, because a good guard dog can save a lot of chickens. I bet your guard dog has a better response time than 7 minutes. I bet if your fucking guard dog's response time was 7 minutes or greater, you'd lose a lot of fucking chickens, wouldn't you? So your analogy's fucking stupid is what I'm saying. A fucking guard dog that's standing right there that sees that. If I had, look at the Prime Minister. He had RCMP and guards right at his property, and the fucker still ended up in his bedroom. So, you know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, who's responsible for your safety and your families? If you're the type of man that outsources, in my mind, you're not a man. A man needs to provide and protect has to come first. You got to be able to protect what you're providing. Like, that's it. That's my feelings on it. So, I don't know. Brad, what do you think of the final one where the chicken finally wins the day?
Makes me think of the saying, because, again, you are, like, chicken is the first responder. It's the one there. If not you, then who?
Yeah.
We've said that before. If not you, then who? Who, and, like, I'll say that, and then I'll say, if not now, then when?
I was just going to add that. Yeah, beautiful.
Right? But who has your health, safety of yourself, your loved ones? Who cherishes that the most?
Yeah.
Who has more skin in the game than you? Nobody. Nobody gives a fuck like you give a fuck. Like, nobody is as invested as you. They can't be. It's impossible. They cannot be as invested in you, other than you. Like, you are, like, you have that the most amount of fucking fuel possible than anybody else out there for your own protection, right?
Yeah.
It's not the fucking police, not the police.
Yeah, 100%.
They wish you the best, and they, you know what I mean. They wish you that you don't have to ever experience that, and so do we. I wish nobody had to deal with that, but that's not the reality.
Yeah. There's a couple things I love it. That was so well said. You said, if not you, then who, and if not now, then when. And I'd add to that, after is too fucking late. A lot of people wait till after, and you may not get the gift of more time. And I'm gonna. This will maybe be my final thought on this, but I want to throw one more thing. I already gave one, bonus tip, and that's free. You get that free. Keep your mouth shut. If something happens, you don't talk to anybody except for your lawyer. I need a lawyer. I want my lawyer. That's what you do. That is the best legal advice you're ever going to fucking get. Okay? Because, you'll get yourself in a lot of trouble. Even if you go like, I know I'm right. Okay? Say nothing. Here's the second tip for free. The police have a duty to protect society, not the individual. So for everybody that fucking whines about police response times and whether they need more funding and get more officers on the street and do all this type of stuff, right? Do you understand that if there was 100,000 police officers, 500,000 police officers on the street, those police officers have a duty to protect society, not the individual. Meaning that if the police knew that somebody, a violent repeat offender, was coming to you, like coming to find you tonight, it's coming to your house to fucking murder you, they have no legal duty to protect you. None. They can knowingly go, fuck it, our resources are stretched too thin, we have this, we have that, we have different party calls. They can do nothing, not show up. Sure enough, a family member of yours is murdered, and you think, fuck that shit, I'm suing those sons of bitches. It's been done. And the courts have ruled the police have no duty to protect the individual, but only a duty to protect society as a whole. Right? So now they might go to apprehend that guy because they're like, he's a danger to society as a whole, and so we want to try. Now listen, I am not saying that police officers don't give a shit. Far from it. I'm just saying that legally, they have no responsibility to the individual. There's a case that went through the courts that happened where they tried to sue the police, and a real brief synopsis of it, because imagine this. There's a known violent criminal. He's on the loose. The police are actually actively trying to arrest this guy, searching for this guy. They see this guy. This guy begins to assault people. Like, he's in a public place. This guy begins brutally and viciously attacking, assaulting civilians. The police are there. The police withdraw. There's two police officers. They withdraw to a secured room with a window. They lock themselves inside the room, waiting for backup, which is their protocol, while this individual is brutalizing civilians. When backup shows up, they, of course, then they intercede, take this person down, following procedures, officer safety, all that type of stuff. And at the end of the day, of course, individuals that were severely maimed, I can't remember if somebody died as a result. I can't remember, so I'm not going to say either way. But severe injuries, right? Obviously, with the police watching. And of course, they tried to sue. Well, no, the police did exactly what they should have done. The police have no legal responsibility to protect an individual. They have a legal responsibility to protect society, which they executed on. Now, that can make a lot of people mad, and the majority of officers would have probably given their life in that circumstance to save a civilian. Like, be very clear what I'm saying. I've spent over the last 30 years working with law enforcement, military from all different levels, from high tier 1 guys down to just, rookies that just hit the street. And there's a lot of these men and women that would literally use themselves as a human fucking shield and sacrifice themselves to save other people. I'm saying there's no legal responsibility. Because when you hear that as a man, you have to sit back and go, fuck. I better start figuring out who I'm deferring my safety to, because you are contracting that out to an organization. You don't know what individual is going to be there. You are contracting your safety out to an organization that has no legal responsibility for you, the individual. That alone, I wouldn't have to hear any more than that before I'd be like, fuck it, sign me the fuck up. You know what I mean? And I know so many people, well, that's why I bought a gun. Yeah, when you're homeless and you need a house to live in, go buy a hammer. It's like, all right, do you know how to frame? Do you know how to build out? But you bought a hammer. Excellent job. You know what I mean? Like, you're probably still going to be homeless in 5 years. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, if you buy a gun and you train with it, you know what I mean? Great. One piece of a very big puzzle. Physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, legal. There are so many aspects, which is why, again, the program we teach is the program taught to U.S. Navy SEAL teams, right? I mean, like, it solves a problem. It has to encompass every aspect of solving that problem. It can't be one thing. It can't be a physical, and that's the program that we teach to people, because you have to take good men that are willing to protect. It has to be, we call it whole person integrated development. It has to cover all the bases, right? Before the fight, during the fight, and after the fight. You got to survive all three. Okay, so anyways, that was such a fun thing. Brad, you got anything else you want to throw down range on this?
No, I agree. It was fun. I totally forgot about that cartoon as well. But again, rings true now. It's not like it's not outdated. And to some may seem kind of, it's a silly cartoon.
Yeah.
But when you actually think about like the underlying narrative of that cartoon, it's like, it's bang on. Like, it's 100%.
Yeah. Well, I like it too, because at the end of the day, you can't outrun or outperform who you truly believe yourself to be, right? Not for long. You can't outrun or outperform who you truly believe yourself to be. And I identify with the last chicken, the one saying, I am a protector. Listen, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm glad that I do, because if you go back to slide 1, when the fox shows up, you're gonna have a bad day unless you have some solutions for that. So. Yep. All right. Okay. Again, that was fun. Yeah, the cartoon. It was fun to go through that. I'll have to break out the comic book one of these days that I did. It's quite the fun project. But like I said, that's 7-8 years ago now. But definitely fun to reminisce with this. So, all right, we'll wrap it up here. Next week, Dustin will be back with us. As long as his international programs and training goes well, which I'm sure it's going fantastic. But we'll be looking forward to having him back. Off his adventures. Brad, thanks so much for your time, knowledge, energy, willingness. Again, our whole mission is just to help educate and inspire more good men to stand up and weaponize. If not you, who? If not now, when? And after is often too late. So that's it, everybody. Until next time, stay safe, stay weaponized. We'll chat again soon, everybody.